Hello lovely people, and welcome to this week's episode of Wonky Wednesday. This week I'm going to make a Pinwheel Log Cabin block. I had an idea, so we'll see if it works. What I've got here is a foundation square, it's just some thin old sheet, and I've drawn two lines on it. Now you could just crease. All I did was fold it in half that way and crease, and then the same the other way. I drew the lines really so that you could see. But that's up to you if you want to do that. And then I've got a little square for the middle. Oh, my piece is 4.5 inches square because I want it to go in my journal, and I've got 5-inch square pages, but obviously any size will do. I've got a little crumpled scrap of red here that is about 1.25 inches square, but that's variable as well. And then I've got some strips of light cloth, and I've torn my strips around about 3/4 inch, but variable. And some dark cloth, ditto. I've chosen things that have nice fluffy edges because I'm going to do this raw edge, and you know, scissors, maybe a pin or two, and a needle and some regular piecing cotton. Excuse me. And then later on I've got my aught standing by in case I want to do some fancy stitching on the top. So to start, I'm going to pin my square roughly central. If you want to make sure it's exactly central, you could fold yourself some diagonal lines and line up the corners. But I'm not going to bother. I'll put a little pin in the middle. Actually, I'm going to baste that square, or stitch that square on, I think. So I'm going to just come through from the back with my normal cotton, piecing cotton, and quite close to the edge because I'm not exactly sure how much overlap I want to do. I'm just going to do some running stitch all the way around. Then it's down. And with all these blocks, there were some lovely examples shared in the Facebook group last week of quilters who had made the disappearing 9 patch into quilts. Amy in particular, hello Amy. With all these blocks, I'm showing you one each week on the whole, but if you combine them with several, you know, or with other blocks even, it's that play of the patterns together that, you know, many of them are lovely on their own, but many of them also really bear repeating. So I'm just doing, you know, these stitches are going to be hidden, so I'm just doing rough. Whoops. Well, actually that pin can come out now, I think. Whoopsie, whoopsie, whoopsie. And then when I get right the way round, I'm going to leave my thread attached. I'm going to just go, I want to end up somewhere near that line there, that first vertical line that I can see. So I'm going to start with some dark, and I'm just going to choose a strip, pick a strip, any strip. Let's start with this great big long strip, because it's nice and dark. Pull off the string so you've just got the nice fluffy edge, goes on and on. And now you want to lay it over, choosing the nicest side. I hope you can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to stitch it onto this little side of this square, this quarter side. So if you kind of visualize, we're going to make 4 blocks at once in a sense, but the center square is shared by all 4. So we're going to stitch pieces on, working our way round, alternating lights and darks. So when we come back around, we want some overlap so that we don't get a gap. So you need to overlap your first strip past that line by about 1/4 inch, and then I'm going to overlap it onto my square by also about 1/4 inch, like that. Do you see what I mean? So 1/4 inch to my right. The other end is going to get covered, so you can cut that level with the square. I'm going to cut my strip because it's very long. If it was a shorter strip, you could trim it afterwards if you wanted to. And I'm just going to come through from the back, and if you remember way back when we did raw edge log cabins, you stitch along the outer edge of the strip, not here, unless you want to, but then if you stitch here, that stitching will remain visible. I'm going to stitch along the outer edge so that each round covers the previous line of stitching. So I'm just going to stitch myself up through that little overlap that I left. Of course, I've chosen to make it super small and fiddly until I get up near the top there. And then I'm probably going to cover a fair bit of that strip, but just so I leave myself the option, I'm going to stitch again about 1/8 of an inch down, just to hold that in place. And then when I get here, I'm going to turn it. Now I've done dark, so now I need light. So I'm going to get a bit of light. Now here you don't have to overlap. Just to be clear, the only places where you need to overlap are on your 4 drawn or creased lines. I would actually maybe recommend drawing, because, you know, handling it you might lose the lines. So this piece here, I'm going to lay it on again and overlap that way by 1/4 of an inch. But then here at this side it can be trimmed square. Don't cut through your piecing thread, I've done that more times than I care to mention. So that piece goes there with the overlap. I'll say overlap another 500 times and then I'll stop. Come through from the back again. Just stitch up the edge. These running stitches are just to hold the pieces in place, especially if you plan on doing fancy stitching afterwards. They don't need to be, you know, super great. They're going to be hidden. They're just holding the pieces on. I'm going to stop stitching when I come to the line. And now I need dark, because I've just done light. I think I'm going to just keep working with this great long dark strip. I had some scrappy bits, but this piece is so lovely and dark, I think I'm just going to keep using it. Now this piece is going to overlap the light, but it's going to be in line with the dark. Sorry, oh, Catherine, come on. It's going to be in line with the line, because that's the junction between your 2 separate blocks, if you like. I hope this is making some kind of sense. So the light piece is tucked underneath. So I'm going to, and I'm not going to worry about this not being attached for now. I will either sort that out with fancy stitching later, or by the time I get the other pieces over the top it might be fine, we'll see. I'm just going to stitch along the top edge, and I didn't trim, and then trim this piece off level with the square. Whoops. So now we've done a dark, so we need a light. And again, you see the line. There's no strip here yet, so you need to overlap. So you see the line, there's no strip there already, you need to overlap. If there's a strip there already, then you just match it up to the line. And now I'm not overlapping the right side. Concentrate, concentrate. Stay in the process. Pay attention. So I'm stitching myself up to the edge of the strip, the outside edge. The first round I think is always the worst, and then it's all downhill from there. Of course, if you want to use pins, whoops, then you can. And I might when I get out to the bigger strips. So I stop stitching when I come to the line, or just before the line. That's got an ugly string, I'll get rid of it. So now I've done dark, I've done light, I need dark. So here again, I match this, I hope you can see, I match this edge with the line. So I've got the overlap. There I said overlap again. And come up from the back. Got a knot, that's not helpful. Because I've got a lazy girl thread. Talk amongst yourselves. It's one of those slidey knots. You know, when the tail gets looped around. So then I just make doubly sure which is my tail. This one. And then I cut it really close to the knot and hope. Yes, magic. Well, it's not magic, but feels like it. So there I'm virtually in line with the edge of the square. And trim and turn. Now I need a light piece. Some of this. So again, I match it here in line, but I overlap because there I see my drawn line and there's no strip here yet. So there I need my extra 1/4 inch-ish, ish. I'm going to go up the side and along the top. And it's a great way if you've got tiny bits, tiny little strips. Well, all log cabins are. That was way more than 1/4 inch overlap, but that doesn't matter. Right, so now I've had light and so I need dark. So again, I'm matching the edge to the drawn line and matching these edges. I didn't mention that. And that's going to be a tiny piece. If you don't like fiddle-faddling about, then you can just start with a bigger one, you know, and wider strips. I'm never really sure whether that's easier or not. I think that depends on the person. So now we need one last piece to complete the first round, and that will be a light piece because we've just done dark. So at this edge we're matching the line. There's already a piece here. So there it matches that line. That's a bit wonky, that end. Unpleasantly wonky, as if there's such a thing. So match that and trim that, being careful not to cut your thread. And it's Wonky Wednesday, so you know, if your matching ups and all that are not fine, you're not happy with them, that's all that matters, that you're happy with it. That, and that you enjoy making it. So, and that's then one complete round. When I get to the end of here. Stop stitching just before the line. There we go. So that's one complete round. You already see the pinwheel effect. So now it's a dark, and we start round 2. And it's exactly the same. Here's a line, there's no strip here yet, so I need an overlap. And I think I'm going to come right down like that. So I could have got away with even narrower strips. I'm going to come right down and leave just about, ½ inch of my previous round showing. That's up to you, you can vary it. And I'm trimming square here, because that's going to get covered. stitch up the side, stitch along the top. So you see this strip's covered my previous stitching line, and then like I said, I'll probably go around and do some fancy stitching because all this is flapping in the breeze at the moment. And so fancy stitching can serve a dual purpose. You could do, you know, anything you like there. You could just do some running stitching or just some little overcast stitches on the ends, or crosses would be nice, you know, anything. But we're not there yet, so that's that dark strip. Turn it. Now a light. Let's have some of this flannel sheet that's been brush printed and goodness knows what else. So here I match to my raw edge. Here I want to overlap. By 1/4 inch or so. I don't know why I'm jumping back, it's not really necessary. And just start stitching where the thread is. There's no need to stitch that down because it'll be covered on the next, by the next round, till we get to the edge. I'm a little bit later this morning. I had a lie-in, I didn't get up till 6. So the traffic's a little bit worse, apologies for that. So now I've done a light, I need a dark. Now I've got a strip, so I need to match to the line. And I think you get the idea, at least I hope you do. So I'm just going to work my way round, adding darks and lights, paying attention to the overlaps and the matchings, and then I'll come back at the end when I've pieced it all and maybe do the fancy stitching with you. I think that's what I'd like to do. Be back in a mo. Okay, I'm just about to start stitching my final round, and I've noticed something. If it bothers you, let me just trim that off, that because you're overlapping, you know, in the direction of your stitching, when you come to the last strip, it's going to lay on top of the first strip, whereas all the other strips, you see here the darks are on top, and here the lights on top, because the last strip's a light laying on the dark. So there's a different look to this line than there is to these. How to avoid that: when you lay your first dark strip on, the first strip of your round, if you cut that in line, you place that in line with your centre line, but don't stitch down the first sort of ½ inch of it, and then when you come round to the end of the round, you leave this strip longer and you tuck it under. I hope that makes sense, and then you'll have this clean dark line all the way around and not here. The other thing is, as you go along, you're obviously going to cover up your line, then you just line your strip up with the previous strip. That's probably obvious, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. So yeah, in normal circumstances I probably would have gone back, taken it apart, restarted, you know, started filming again and shown you that from the beginning. But if you watch Monday's video, you'll realise I'm not in normal circumstances, so I don't really have time to do that now. But that's just a note to you, you know, if that bothers you. But you might otherwise say it's Wonky Wednesday, that's character, you know, let's go with it like that, but that's how to fix that. So I'm just going to stitch my last round on, and then I'll come back for the slow stitch part. Okay, apologies for that, it really felt like a mistake, and I really wish I could redo it. Well, I suppose I could, but I've got to go and do some stuff today at my future home. So anyway, I hope the explanation was clear how to avoid how to avoid this, if you don't, like the look of it. I think I'm going to do, I like the idea of the cross stitches, so I'm going to just do some little cross stitches down the lines of the pinwheel where the overlaps are. And I'm going to do it stab stitch styly apparently. But you can do whatever. It just feels like mending the mistake. So I'm just going over the overlap, and I'm still saying overlap. Yes, apologies for the wobble. Get a grip, Catherine. So very, very wonky crosses, not remotely even. And that will also emphasise the pinwheel shape, although I think it's pretty dominant already. Whoops, please don't get knots. Can't deal with it. There we go. So I'm just going to do that down all the seams, and I might do something in the middle as well. I think I might do some seed stitching in the middle. Seeds of hope. Yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Good, good. Let's jump over here and go up this side that's not entirely how I would have wanted it. See if the stitching can improve matters, as often does. Sorry, I'm not as chatty as normal at the moment. I'll get there, I'll get there. And apologies if you don't know what I'm talking about if you haven't seen Monday's video. And even more apologies for not being able to keep saying it. Talking about it, should I say. Right, that already looks slightly better. The other thing to say is when I did my final round, the stitching around the edge, I'd made it just a little bit neater because it'll be on show, because it's going in my journal. Obviously if you're going to join it in some way to other things, or make a rice bag, or bind it, with another piece of cloth or whatever. If you're going to hide it in some way, then that wouldn't matter. But because it's going in my journal, I did that last round of running stitch a little bit more neatly. I'm going to start at the top here, so that when I come to the middle I can go and do the final side. I just love the feel of these little cloths with so many pieces in them. I'm just trying to count. 1, 2, 3, I did 5 rounds. So that's 40 strips, plus there's 41 pieces of cloth in this cloth, not including the backing. And they're only tiny pieces, but there's still 41 of them. So it's an excellent way to use up little bits. I often have little strips laying about because I do a lot of work with strips. But you can tear a strip off, if you've got large pieces of cloth, you can tear a little 3/4 inch wide strip off and hardly notice, if you see what I mean. Yet combine all those together and you get something lovely. go. And then my last one. Yeah, I think that's all it needs, so I could be tempted to put more stitching in the other areas, but I just love these little fluffy overlaps. I think they're, as long as that one stays where it should stay. And because it's for my journal, you know, it's fine like that. I think if I was going to make it, put it in a cushion or something, I would put a lot more stitching in just for security. I'm going to go back and fill in. There should have been another cross in there. So today I'm going to go and start doing some painting. Not the fun kind, well, it's kind of fun I suppose, the decorating, painting of walls kind. Beginning to nest, let's call it. And get it ready for bringing Stella and Fred over. Okay. That's that. Yep, and that looks much nicer. Now I had a bit of red standing by. There it is, from the aughts. I'm just going to put a few seed stitches in the middle. Nearly put the needle in my mouth, but you all know by now that the amount of time I say that. Of course I do it when I'm alone, and it's very naughty and dangerous. But I don't think I should do it here and encourage you to do it. You probably do it anyway. But yes, I have heard some stories about people who sneezed with a needle in their mouth. So be careful. Be careful out there. We're using sharp, pointy things that can bite you. Okay, yeah, I'll just do some seed stitches. Because the seed stitches are kind of like half a cross stitch in a way. If that makes sense. They're like an unfinished cross stitch. I'm going to do them a similar size to my cross stitches. I always stab stitch with seed stitch. You don't have to, you can come up, you can go down and then come up where you think the next one's going to be. But I like the rhythm of it like this, and I find I can place them more mindfully, if that makes any sense. I can visualise better where the next one's going to go. And this, like I was saying at the beginning about secondary patterns, you can, I hope you can visualise how, I hope I'm in frame, how this would look. You know, if you had other blocks around it the same, this pattern would go through between the blocks. Just think it's a nice way to make a pinwheel in a log cabin style-y. And it also is, I mean, most, the kind of conventional log cabin blocks, layouts, look best with others around them, you know? It's the interplay between different blocks that really gives you the effect. But I think things like this, you know, and Scrappy Heart and other ones that we've done, that really just stands alone as a little pinwheel. And I'm much happier about the fact that I got the overlaps wrong on the first round, now that I've stitched on it. So I'll get rid of that, can go back in the aughts, it's still got some life in it. And let's get the journal in. Excuse my arm. The journal's getting nice and chunky, even though I don't put something in it every week like I do with the Monday journal. It's still getting pleasantly full of things. Nothing went in it last week because the disappearing line patch I kept out. See, that's still jumping out at me. I'll put it to the bottom, I think. What shall I use to sew it in? Something out of the aughts. Anyway, you don't really need to watch me do this, I don't suppose. So I'm going to sew this into my journal. Actually, I'm not. I just remembered. Yeah, I've been photographing them before putting them in, but I think this is okay. The Monday journal, I can't hold it open and photograph it, and get a decent photograph for that's called the thumbnail. I use this bit. It's a bit pale. So yeah, so I've been stopping the video and to photograph it before I sew it in the journal. But I think I can manage this one still. It's not quite a monster yet. So I'll sew this in, I'll take a picture, I'll design my thumbnail, put the words on it, edit this video so it makes some sense, upload it, and I hope you enjoy it. And thank you so much to all of you for your support of my channel over this year so far, and I hope you'll stay with me even though I feel a bit shaky at the moment. Yeah, thank you so much for all the ways that you support me, commenting here, your lovely comments, and giving me the thumbs up and sharing my videos with your friends, and all that stuff. It really, really means a lot to me. And thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to you joining me next time for more Cloth Tales. Bye bye.